Mastering is no longer the wizardry that it used to be considered.
You're a wizard, Harry.
I'm a what?
But if you're still having a hard time figuring out which plugins you think you might want for your mastering chain, well, I'm going to let you into a few of my secrets with my top 5 favorite mastering plugins, one of which is completely free. Hey, what's up everybody? It's Fabio here from Noise. We are at Boombox, the home of collaboration. Don't forget that every single month, Boombox gives away $500 of studio equipment. Now, all I want you to do for this video is comment down below with what your favorite mastering plugin is. So that can be a compressor, limiter, EQ, saturator. You tell me what it is in the comments down below and what you use it for and why you love it so much. Let's take a listen to this amazing track by Troy Miller. It's a big dance tech house track that we're going to be mastering today. Let's go! So let's start with our first plugin, which is in fact our free plugin. Now this is Buster SE. This is an SSL G-Bus emulation. And the thing I like to use this for is parallel compression. Let me show you exactly how. So we're gonna put the attack at 30 milliseconds. We're gonna put the release on auto. We're gonna leave the ratio at 4 and we're gonna over compress. So we're gonna compress about 4 dB. Now, one of the most important things when you're mastering, in case you didn't already know, is to put a loop around one of the loudest parts of your track. Now, this is all great, but the compressor is reacting a little bit too much to the low frequencies. Luckily for us, we do have a filter on the bottom left-hand corner, so we can increase this high-pass filter. We're gonna bring it to about 100, so everything roughly under 100 is now gonna bypass the compressor, so it's not being triggered by the low frequencies as much, which is gonna make it feel less pumpy and reactive. Now the idea here is to add sustain. Now the way we're going to do that is by using the dry wet mix. So by overcompressing the signal, it's not really working for us, right? We can hear it every so often when a loud signal or part of the track comes in. So we're going to use the dry wet dial down here in the bottom right hand corner to bring back some of that original signal, and then we have the best of both worlds. And I know it's subtle, but that is adding a little bit of thickness, and that is one of my many secret sauces. Now, back on the note of compression, this is another compressor that I use, but more for tonal shaping. So the other compressor is more for control, a little bit of character, but mainly adding sustain. This one here, sure, there's going to be a little bit of compression going on, but what I mainly use it for is the nickel, iron, and steel fader. Now, think of it like this: high, mids, lows. Depending on which one you choose, it's going to saturate that part of the frequency spectrum that little bit more. And that's because it applies this kind of EQ curve, which is also non-linear and plays into the circuitry of the Shadow Hills compressor. When it's all the way at nickel, listen to the hi-hats. When it's on steel, listen to the low end. So depending on the tonal change you're after, you can use this to very subtly and musically pull things together. Now, if you really want your tracks to sound thick and juicy, the Oxford Inflator is your best friend. Probably the most boring, ugliest looking plugin, no offense, ever. However, what it does is quite beautiful. In a similar way to compression, that brings down the loud signal and then you boost the overall signal and it makes all the quieter parts louder. The Oxford Inflator does that, but without having to bring the louder signals down. So it figures out what the quieter parts are and brings them up in volume, which makes everything sound thicker. Essentially inflating the sound. Now, I'm lucky enough to own the real thing over here, but Solid State Logic, also known as SSL, have taken the vintage drive section of the SSL Fusion and made it into a plugin. Why do I love this so much? Well, again, it's adding a little bit of saturation, a little bit of drive, but it makes the signal thicker and it does a little bit of soft clipping too. I'm going to pull down the drive here. I'm going to keep auto gain on, and we're going to oversaturate it so you can really hear what's going on and then pull back. So even when you're pushing really far into the red, the saturation is still so subtle and so smooth and it sounds good. So when you push it too far, you notice you lose some of the punch. We are looking for a little bit of soft clipping and we are looking for a little bit of character, and this is what I'm using the drive for. It does sound a little similar to what the Oxford Inflator is doing, but it kind of does it in its own way with its own character, in contrast to the Oxford Inflator, which is very transparent. Now, if you want to get your track sounding really loud, don't just leave it up to the limiters. Try and get your hands on a good clipper. Now, this standard clip by Cert Audio Tools is about 20 bucks, so there's no excuses, and it's one of the best clippers on the market. By clipping the signal, which is essentially completely shaving off the top of those transients, unlike a limiter which brings them down in volume, you will be able to increase the loudness of your track quite considerably. Now, yes, you've got to make sure that the mix is good and that there are a few things prior to that that mean that the clipper isn't going to be working too hard. And when done subtly, this is barely noticeable and takes a lot of the heat off of the incoming limiters. Remember, I want to know what your favorite mastering plugins are, so please make sure to comment down below and tell me why and what you're using them on also. It's been a pleasure as always. Welcome to Boombox, the home of collaboration, and I'll see you very soon. Peace!